Good morning, BPL. This is Cindy Clark from PAC-B TV, and with me this morning is Sharon Turner-Cook, our local artist extraordinaire. And as you can see behind me, here are some of the examples of her terrific talent. So without further ado, Sharon, why don't you tell us how you got involved in art and how you got involved in doing these beautiful paintings?
Well, good morning, Cindy. It's so nice to see you. And I thank you for showing my work to people, because the whole idea behind it was to share a little bit of this with the Baldwinsville community. I have drawn and worked in art my whole life. I can't remember a time as a child I didn't have a pencil in my hand and was drawing. I've always enjoyed it. Didn't have an awful lot of time in school to do that academically because of academic coursework, but knew I still wanted to pursue that. Went to Oswego State and got a degree in art and education, and from there moved out to Arizona, and at that point started a family. After a few years in Arizona, moved back to the Baldwinsville area and raised my children at home, but I have continued to do art throughout my life, mainly watercolors, a lot of gifts for friends and family through the years. But it wasn't until in the end of 2019, my youngest daughter unexpectedly passed away, and then we started in COVID in the beginning of 2020. It was a very difficult time for me, and after a long period of time, many months of dealing with the loneliness of COVID and the grief of my daughter, my oldest suggested I start painting again, and she found a whole bunch of canvases on Marketplace and brought them over, and I had some oils and bought other oils, and the paintings began. And then the question was what to paint. Well, the first thing that came to mind, and I work from reference photos from photographs I've taken throughout the years and recent ones, and I knew I had this long canvas like this, and I knew I had a beautiful picture of Baldwinsville taken at twilight that I wanted to focus on. So this was done, this is our village of Baldwinsville. It was taken at the end of the walkway there along the lot, and it was evening. And this meant a lot to me because my daughter loved this time of day, the time when the lights are just starting to come on in the evening, and we have a little glow in our town, our community. This is a reference picture. This just shows my daughter Kelsey when she was a small girl, just an example of watercolor. In this whole show, the only watercolor that I brought is this one, because this is about her and my heart. The paintings were all a labor of love for me, Cindy, to help me get through a very difficult time, and I know others that have lost people in their lives certainly can relate to that grief of losing people. And I just hope that this show, the end point was to someday share it and give a little joy to some people. And that's what I hope happens.
Well, I have to tell you, I came down here the other day. I had no idea, quite honestly, that this was going on. And I started looking at these pictures and I said, oh my God, look at this. This is beautiful. Then, of course, I saw you. And we've met before. We've done an interview before. And I said, we have to share this with the community. We certainly do. And so what we're going to do, this is kind of like the beginning. We're going to go around to look at some of the other paintings that she's done, terrific paintings from Baldwinsville. So let's take a walk over and start looking at the Baldwinsville
sounds
paintings.
Good,
okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, we're back again now. And these are some of the paintings that Sharon has done of the Baldwinsville area. And they're stunning, believe me. So why don't you tell me where you started this one?
You probably have seen this site before. This is Lake Oberon in Radisson.
Yes.
So we started with the first of the series of the Baldwinsville paintings. This was the last one that I did, and then we'll show you all the in-betweens as we go along. But this one I did this one last fall, but it was taken from a photograph that I had taken during COVID when I went and walked in Radisson with a good friend of mine. And I said I knew I had to come back and paint this scene because it just is so beautiful. And the fall colors, it was a gorgeous day, and I just wanted to show this. We are so fortunate in the Baldwinsville area to have these resources of all this beauty around us, and I hope that shows through in the artwork. And I know this is a popular spot for the Radisson community to walk around and for all of us to enjoy. So if we move along, we can talk about some other ones that we have. This is a little, this was done from reference photos from fireworks that I've enjoyed when I was at Paper Mill Island. Little nod to our fire department here setting off the fireworks, and this is just as they're beginning in the evening. So I wanted to show the sunset because those of us that live in Baldwinsville, one of our favorite things is the Baldwinsville sunset. Would you agree
sure
with me,
is.
Cindy?
I do agree with you.
We're very fortunate to have that over our beautiful waterway.
Do you take these pictures, or do you do these paintings from pictures, or are you there on site?
No, I don't do pen air painting, Cindy. I don't like bugs, and it takes me a while to do it. And a lot of people do that, but I'm getting old, and I sit at my easel and I work that way from several reference photos and put things together. So no, I don't do them. I may someday, but as you've got to like the bugs, flying around, and even in my house sometimes, I'll have something come in and fly around and land in the oil, and that's not fun either. Down here, this is taken from the bridge in Baldwinsville, and it looks over at the old, I don't know, what were those, trolley tracks or railroad tracks?
I think the railroad tracks,
Stationed in the water.
Yeah.
And then over here, there's a little nod to our bald eagles that we see in Baldwinsville now. That's an eagle flying over the river. And up above, people could recognize this from at first, what I started with that was how much I love the tree. Every time I would go across the bridge and go into Baldwinsville, I noticed the tree in front of the Red Mill Inn, and that was what started this painting. Knew I wanted to capture that sunset and those colors again, and you can see the sun deeply reflected on the red to turn that side of the building that pink color. And this was taken, I did it from photographs in the winter, and have a winter scene. So I tried to use a variety at different times a year in the paintings to give it a little bit more. I like to do different things. I like to have things look different. So I challenge myself to trying to do different kind of artwork. And if we go along, Cindy, this is a familiar scene in Baldwinsville, right here.
The Beeville Diner. How could you not know what that is?
Yeah, so if you see, this was taken from several photographs that I had, and it was taken during COVID, and they were just starting to open up the diner. So I hope it reflects a little bit of that cross time in Baldwinsville when we had no traffic and no cars, and it was kind of a lonely town for all of us.
Very, very
there was
lonely.
no people around, and so that I wanted to create with this. This was probably the most difficult of all the paintings to do. It was very hard to get, all the detail in, and you can kind of tell that I'm a detail person when I do.
You got it.
And that was
You
a
got
challenge.
it.
That was a real challenge on that one. So that again is that gradient of that almost when the lights are starting.
Let me get over here so we can showcase
This
a
is
little bit
again
more.
the gradient of that sky at the beginning of the evening when it's still a little bit of light out to get that color in the sky. So,
It's beautiful, it really
thank
is.
you,
And I
Cindy.
do remember those times.
Yeah,
I remember it was very, very
you
quiet,
go down
very
the street
lonely,
and there's
there was no
nobody around.
traffic, nobody.
You
I
go
know.
to a park, there's no one there,
Nobody.
and I said, boy, those were, we forget.
We struggle.
We forget.
We
We think
forget.
sometimes, did we actually go through that? And
I know.
everybody, the one thing I thought about that one is, I was fortunate enough with my daughter to be able to have a wonderful funeral for her, but I thought about all those people in COVID that did not get that opportunity to have people around them and share their grief, and they had to go through that alone, and I thought it was just not a good time.
No, it was not. All right, and then we're going to be moving along. We're going to get the next batch of these beautiful pictures. And we're back again with Sharon, and we're going to look at some more of her Baldwinsville paintings. Are these all paintings, or are there watercolors?
No, these are all
Okay.
oil paintings that have been done. This one, of course, people will recognize if they ever go out to Beaver Lake Nature Center. And it's a favorite. I'm a member there, along with many people in our community, to have this wonderful resource. I took a lot of walks at Beaver Lake during COVID, and we had our masks on and would meet people and put your mask on and still walk around the lake. And it's a favorite spot, and I hope it has been sold, and it's actually going to a home where a young woman and young man that got married last year, that I went to their married, that was the first time he told her he loved her, and this is going to their home.
I love these stories.
Isn't that lovely?
It is.
And it really means a lot to me that someone special is going to appreciate that. It's going to be in their home. This is the last time the Baldwinsville pictures are all going to be together as all the ones that I painted. A couple have been sold, so it's nice that they're going to have nice homes for people that appreciate them. We're going to move along here. This is called Swan River, and it was taken behind the old, what is this? Where the AT&T store is, back behind where...
and where W.T. Brews?
Yeah, back there.
And the Dollar Tree, okay.
That was
behind
taken,
there.
that was done from photographs of that area at the time. There were many, many ducks in the water, and I, as an artist, chose not to do the ducks and to focus just on the swans in this picture. And it just shows our, our lovely birds that we're lucky to have here in a winter scene. Up above that, this is end of day. This is a picture of, the lock at sunset, which we've talked about before, one of my favorite places to be. Over here, this one people say, where is this? Because a lot of people don't go to this place. This is from Lions Park, and there's a bridge in Lions Park there, and it was taken, I'm not going to tell you the season because some people have said fall and some people have said spring, so it could be either one. And this is if you haven't ever gone to Lions Park and walked along the river, you can walk right on down to the village from Lions Park.
Yes, you can. It's a very nice walk.
Access it from Route 48 in Baldwinsville, and there's signs there, and it's got a nice playground for children, and now they have kayaks. So this is a nice park if you've never been there. Up above is a little tiny one called Summer School. This has been sold. This is our Shacksboro Schoolhouse Museum, and out here is when the peonies are in bloom. I go often to the Peony Festival that they have every June, and it's a lovely it's got a beautiful gift store in there, and you can wander around the grounds, and they have a lovely festival every...
They are having a trunk sale coming up too as well.
True.
That's right.
True. So,
at the Peony Fest, did you ever watch Murder, She Wrote? Of course, I'm dating myself, with Angela Lansbury. That reminds me of a scene from one of her shows, and that's why I've always loved that museum, because that's what, and the festival that they have. It's such a lovely time.
It's beautiful. If you've never been, the flowers are beautiful, and they have a long history here in Baldwinsville, so there are people that can give you a lot more knowledge about where the peonies are from and why that means so much to our community to have that festival there every year. You'll notice that as we go on to another painting, there's some small paintings. I like small paintings. To me, they're just like a little jewel that you can have. Not everything has to be big. My daughter was very petite, and she was adorable, and so little things can be great things can be in little packages as well.
That's right.
If we move along here, this is, of course, Lock 24. This is the visitor center where volunteers come and man that. Cindy and I both happen to be volunteers at the visitor center, and if you've never done that before, we say it's the best volunteer job you could ever have. You sit there and you talk to the boaters, the people that are walking along, that have maybe strolled down, that aren't from our community, want some information, and it's just a beautiful place to be. And as the boaters come in and they're excited to be there. A lot of them are traveling from long distances away. We had a man that was from Scotland that had come up that I met one day, and people from Canada, all over the place. A lot of Florida people that come in. But this is the springtime, and I believe these are pear trees, Cindy, that line that in the spring. My daughter calls this the Mary Poppins painting, because she said it just reminds her of Mary Poppins in springtime.
It really is. It really is.
And it's, again, a great place to walk and visit. You can go down there. It's not crowded, and it's just beautiful down there.
Very peaceful. Very, very peaceful.
And this is when I was visiting friends shortly after COVID that lived out on East Dead Creek? East Dead Creek Road? Is it?
I think it's west.
West Dead Creek Road, okay. West Dead Creek Road, there happens to be this famous barn that's called the Pagoda Barn. Cindy's done a piece on the Pagoda Barn. This has recently been painted within the last year and a half, and this is the faded original way it looked before it was restored. So I'm kind of glad that we captured that. And now if you go out there, it looks completely different than that, because it's been beautifully done. And the artist's name that did that,
It was Dave Smart. Is
Dave Smart, maybe, yeah.
Very, very talented gentleman.
And it is a beautiful drive out there as well. If you go out, you can see the countryside, and it's beautiful. But this was, again, a winter scene that was done. I had actually not been there. I'd been there in the fall, and I knew I wanted to come back in the winter and do a winter scene with that barn. there's a lovely story that you can find out about this pagoda. I don't want to do it an injustice by telling what I know about it.
Well, you can watch the interview that we did with him when he painted it, and he'll give you the full story. It's really, it's lovely.
It's a lovely story. So
yeah.
look that up, because they can find that on your website.
Right, they can go to YouTube and find the interview that we did with him, and he does explain how it all started.
Yeah, it's a lovely place. And we are full. I love barns, and you'll see them in several pieces of my work. I'm mainly a landscape painter. I do have some figures in my paintings, but I'm primarily a landscape painter. And so I love barns. My early ancestors in Baldwinsville, we believe, created the first barn in the town of Van Buren. They go back to the Revolutionary War and are buried over on Sorrel Hill Road. So I have deep roots in this community.
Yes, you do.
And I've always loved barns. So that is just a beautiful barn, and in the winter scene.
It is a beautiful barn too. I mean, when you see it, yeah.
Yeah, love that. And then again, barns again. This is Patchett Road Farm. So the photograph was taken many, many years ago. I substitute taught in Baldwinsville for many, many years before I retired. This is a cross from Palmer School. But it was taken when the barns were relatively red, but I enhanced them even more because I wanted them to really look red. I love a red barn. So this is a picture. This is taken from many pictures that I've taken, and then the wildflowers in front. But I like the idea.
I like this effect.
You know, and one thing I want to tell people too that may not know from art, but one of the things that you learn too when you take art, if you look at a sky, it should always be darker at the top and go light because of atmosphere. So atmosphere is what makes it look faded because we're looking through more air to see that farther distance there. This would be closest actually to our line of sight up here. So most paintings, we always try to make them, if you want to show depth, they're darker and go lighter as they would recede into the background. I'll show you another one.
Okay.
And this is these are the last of all my Baldwinsville paintings. People will look at this and they'll say a golf course. Well, that's nice, that's a nice thought, but it's about the opposite of a golf course. This is, I call it 60-year-old sunset. This is the marshlands, the wetlands along 60 Road as you're traveling from Baldwinsville to Phoenix. I grew up in the Phoenix area, Phoenix, New York, that is. But when I moved to Baldwinsville, I traveled that road all the time to see my parents who were still in Phoenix. And this doesn't show all the grassland, but it's taken from a composite of many pictures. When we had a sunset, when the water was high and the grasslands were low to get the reflection from the sunset onto these waterways here. And again, you can kind of see we're darker at the top and we go lighter. The vegetation in the back goes lighter to show more depth as you're moving, as your eye goes into the back of the picture.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Seems like we're right there. We're looking out a window.
I appreciate that. I probably did. I think I did this about 8 times until I got exactly what I wanted for the wildflowers. People don't see the mistakes, but I do. I see. There's times if I'm not happy with it, I'll rework it many, many times. And people will say, "How much time did it take?" And I really can't say that because sometimes I'm working on a couple. But sometimes, because COVID, I had so much time on my hands, I did not care about how much time something took. If it took me a long time to paint a flower or whatever, it didn't matter to me because in that period of time, for me, I was just trying to fill time.
That's right.
I really was. Weren't you?
What would you say? Absolutely. Now, is there any kind of a medium time that these paintings all take, or it goes from maybe a few hours to weeks? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, sometimes I can do it in a few days, but that's rare because there's so much that goes into the decision making for me. I mean, not everybody works the same, but for me, it's everything from what do I want to paint, what colors do I want to do, the blending of those paints, the size canvas, the strokes, the brushes, how do I want to approach this painting? So it's a lot of mental work, and then sometimes I'm just sitting and thinking like, what do I want to do here, or whatever. It takes a long time, but they do. And then one of the things that I just want to tell people is when you look at art in a book or you look at a photograph on YouTube or anything, it does not ever do the justice to a painting as seeing a painting in real life. And recently I was privileged to go to Zurich in Switzerland and go to the art museum in Zurich and see my favorite Monets and Van Goghs in person, and it just is amazing. And then went to, in Amsterdam, the Rijksmuseum there, and they have just their beautiful Renoirs and paintings that are as big as this whole wall. And a little photograph does not begin to show what these paintings look like in real life. So my thing is to encourage people, when you get to see art, wherever you can see art, in a museum, visit, travel to museums, and expose your children to it, because it's just such a gift to be able to see what these artists were doing.
Well, I'm looking and I'm thinking all the time spent, all the thought behind it, the talent. It's absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that.
So we're going to go on to another section that it's not Baldwinsville, but it was, some of them are from a trip that you took.
Yeah, I took a trip last fall, it hasn't even been a year yet, to England and Scotland. I had never been abroad, and I knew I wanted to go, and took just the most wonderful trip for 14 days to England and Scotland. Took many, many pictures because I knew I was going to do some paintings, and we'll see some of those over here.
Let's see some of the paintings. And we're back again with Sharon, and she is going to explain some of the paintings that she's done from her trip to England and Scotland.
Yeah, last year I was fortunate at the end of August to go on a trip to England and Scotland. I had never been abroad before, always wanted to go. So I knew I was going to take a lot of photographs, but I didn't know how many I was going to take, and I took a lot, believe me. But it was such a thrill to be there. So the teacher in me, when I decided to do this display, I did little postcard vignettes explaining where the paintings are. There's talks about the name of the painting, but also a little bit about the trip. So it reads a little like a travel log if you want to take the time to do that. But the first thing when we got to London and we walked outside, the first thing we encountered, this was the bridge right near our hotel room. It just took my breath away. It was everything in that small space that I wanted to see. We have the red buses, we have the Parliament building, the ferries under the bridge, and right here is of course Big Ben. And I love that with the British flag. So this was just the pinnacle thing I had in my mind, and it was the first thing I saw.
It's so little and detailed.
Yeah.
You'd have to really come down here and take a look at this to check all the details. I mean, it's small. If you have a bigger one, you have a little more room to work.
Yeah.
But with this, but the detail is there, but just a very, very, very small painting. It's really quite lovely.
Yeah, and again, I like those little kind of jewel boxes of a painting. Now, as we left England, we come to this scene. So this right here is Stonehenge. And people say, well, where is Stonehenge? So this is an area called Belva Plain, and it's the cars coming up to the top, and Stonehenge would be right here. And these sheep are all around in the farmland surrounding Stonehenge, and they were just so peaceful and lovely on that gorgeous summer day. Cindy, we had lovely weather in England and Scotland the whole time.
I'm looking at the traffic. Is it all bumper to bumper all
bumper
the time?
to bumper. We got there very early, so we were very early around, but then it's hundreds of people that circle Stonehenge, and it's amazing. And it's so quiet. I mean, with all those people, you just don't, you could hear the wind blowing, and it's kind of revered as a special place. And but to me, the sheep have grazed there in that land for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it was just lovely with the wildflowers around them, and it was just a lovely moment. So these postcards, you can read that little description about them if you have a little more time. As we traveled along then, the next thing we saw was we went to Bath, which is a lovely city in England, but outside it we went and had dinner one night at a little village called Ladcock. And this is famous. It's the site of many movies in British film. There's a house that was Harry Potter's parents' house that was down the lane. This was in Pride and Prejudice, the Colin Firth version of it. And there was hardly any people there, but a small little group that was on this tour. And you could wander around and you just felt like you were back in old England. And it was absolutely gorgeous. The flowers and the trees. It took my breath away. So I love painting color. I guess you could probably see that. I love color because it does bring to me joy. And I said, I hope people see that in this. It was just a labor of love to do that. And then as we go along, this is a farmhouse. It talks a little about the farming in England. A lot of England has farming, and Scotland. It's a lot of farmland, and everything has these stone walls all the way around it, so that keep the sheep where they are, and it's just beautiful to pass through the countryside and hills and see all that. Then we went to another place, and you can see the little bunny here. Well, what this is we went and had tea and scones at a little farmhouse in this area called the Lake District in England. And we went, and not this particular house, but we went, that it was once owned by Beatrice Potter. And if you've ever read anything about her, she went, and the bunny rabbit lady, she went and bought all kinds of farms in the area to help the farmers that were not doing well, so they wouldn't be just torn down and turned into resorts. She wanted to keep the farming community and the buildings the way they were. So we went there, but after we left, we stopped and we saw this scene, and it was just absolutely breathtaking. We're up on a hill. We got out and saw the sheep and the colors in the hills. We have some heather, even though it's a Scottish thing, we have some heather in the hills. The sky isn't what the sky was that day, but I wanted just an idea of fantasy with it, because to me it was such a fantasy kind of a scene to see, and just beautiful. So that's that little area in England. So that kind of talks about England. If you want to come and take a look and read about the different areas, I kind of did it for children too, that they might see that and see the world of possibilities out there as well. So, and we'll talk about the Scottish ones on the other side.
Okay. We're back with Sharon again, and we have some samples of her paintings from Scotland from her beautiful trip. I'm sure it was a great trip. So tell us about these,
well,
Sharon.
We crossed over in the one morning from England to Scotland, and we went, the first city that we went to visit was St. Andrews, and this is St. Andrews, and it's right on the ocean. You would know St. Andrews if you're a golfer. This was the birthplace of golf, and it's also the place where William and Kate met at the college at St. Andrews, where they both attended. So this means a lot to that couple. They love this place enough to go back to visit. But it was just a beautiful morning, and just tried to capture this. I don't know if it's a father and son at the beach, but they were down there playing. I took many pictures of them. I thought, well, they got to be part of that, because it makes it, I think it brings it more back to present day, and so we still have the reflection of the churches and the old buildings. And that's my favorite part about Scotland and England, were the architecture and the old buildings, just beautiful. Just a variety of different kinds of landscapes to look at, to be inspired by, but if you ever get a chance to go, it's just a magical, magical place. So after we left that, I just got a picture. This is a little farmhouse in Scotland, and they were haying at the time, so we have the bales of hay out there like we see around in our area as well. But again, another one of the little tiny paintings. And after we left, I mean, there were many, many things that I didn't paint. We went to this old bridge, and this is up, we're going up north now, we're traveling up north. We went to Culloden, which is the major battlefield during the revolt from the Scottish people to the English. And this was an old bridge. You can no longer cross it, but it's one of the oldest bridges in Scotland that's still remaining stone bridges.
It looks real. It looks like a picture. That's how real that looks. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you,
That is
Cindy.
amazing.
Thank you very much. So then we're traveling up north, and one of the reasons I went on the trip I did is I really wanted to get to the island of Skye, which, if you know anything about Scotland, is way up north. You have to cross over on a bridge, and then you can take a ferry also. But when we went over to the island of Skye, the place I really wanted to go see was this Ellendonnan Castle. And this is considered, it's probably one of the most photographed, besides Stirling and Edinburgh Castle, in England. It's been the site of movies. There's been many works of art and pictures. But when I got there, it was early morning, so the sun is over here. And so we got more of the silhouette, the black of the castle. So I enhanced that in this a little bit, and was almost disappointed. But then when I started picking the painting, when you asked about time, actually, Cindy, this one came up together probably the fastest of any other painting I have.
Why do you think?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It just did. And it just, maybe because it meant so much to me. I don't know. But it's just a lovely place. You can walk this bridge. We didn't get to do that. We had to hit a lot of things, but it's a monochromatic painting, which means it stays in those same kind of color family, the blue-green in this one. So it's rather like the sheep one, which is a monochromatic of the green-yellows. This is the blue-green colors in a monochromatic painting. And it talks a little about Ellendon Castle. This was actually destroyed after the Jacobite Rebellion, so it's not even that old a castle. It was built between 1919 and 1932, which is relatively new for castles in Scotland. But it's definitely a beautiful place, again, with the mountains behind it. So we're getting into the Highlands now that you hear about in Scotland. So after we left there, we traveled along to, this is Island of Skye as well. I'm going to go to another one in just a minute. This is Island of Skye also as we're leaving. These are some old houses, just a little bit different style for me, a little bit starker, and I just think it's a sweet painting. It just, to me, they're just looking out over the water and enjoying the view, these stately white homes that you saw all over the landscape of Scotland. It was just beautiful. We had blue skies like that. It's hard to believe with all the terrible weather we had heard that Scotland had. We saw nothing but blue skies.
Oh, you were lucky.
It was
very lucky,
beautiful, just beautiful. Even the Scottish people were talking about the weather, how incredible it was. And the last painting I want to leave you with, too, is another one of my little tiny paintings. This one right here is actually a little cabin, a little house that sits at the base of the Highlands. And this is near Glencoe, and this is the Highland area of Scotland with the big mountains. When we got off, stopped, and got out of the bus to go look at the Highland, the mountains, there was a bagpiper playing on the side of the road. And I just thought, it couldn't get any better. It could not get any better.
Not at all.
And I had heard about this little cottage. It's very famous. People just take picture after picture of it when you follow things about Scotland. It's called a brothy. And a brothy, it talks about it in here, those little houses that dot the Skylands. So in the winter, when the weather's bad and you're stuck, you can go in there for free. I mean, they don't charge for them, and just stay to just keep yourself safe and alive. And this one's photographed all the time because it's such a sharp contrast to the wilderness area, and then this white building with some evergreens here and the river in front of it, and the mountain would just keep on going up for the Highlands and Glencoe. And I didn't think I had a photograph. I only work from my own photographs. I don't work from anyone else's, only my own, so that they're original to pieces. I didn't think I had this, and I looked at one of my pictures that I snapped from the bus, and sure enough, we went by it and saw that famous little house in Scotland. So Cindy, these are my Scottish pictures. I may paint some more. I have a lot more in my mind to do. But this year in June, I did a river trip, and I started in Switzerland and went up to the Netherlands, and I got lots of pictures, and that's going to be the next series.
We can look forward to more beautiful, beautiful paintings. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Oh, thank you.
This has just been, I'm in awe. I'm in awe with the talent here. I do stick people if I'm lucky, and even that is kind of iffy doing those. But I so admire talent. And I'm getting you have to come down personally. How long does this last?
When we set up a show in Baldwinsville, they last a month. So I'm going to be picking this show up the 31st of August. I'll be gathering this up. So the 30th is actually the last day they'll be here. The Baldwinsville paintings, a couple have been sold, and they're going to be going to new homes. So that's the last time that they'll all be together. And so I hope you have about a little more than a week.
Right.
If you want to get down and see
Get down and take a look, because it's well worth it. They're stunning. They're so realistic. Like I said, this one here it's so realistic it looks like a photo. And you can feel the love in her paintings. You can feel the emotion. I've never been a big art person, but I just happened to stop in one day, and I have to say, they're beautiful. They're beautiful. And I said to Sharon, can we share this with the rest of the community? Please, if it's wonderful to watch it here, but she's right. If you can't fully appreciate it until you see it in person. But she'll be here till the 30th. So please, if you get an opportunity, come on down, enjoy these beautiful, beautiful paintings. And again, thank you, Sharon. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.